What's up? For today's video, I'm editing images sent in by a viewer that needed some help. She created this really cool panorama of Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park in Colorado, where she took a panorama of the foreground and a panorama of the sky, but was having trouble blending the two together. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how I did this step by step, where I blended the photos and make it look as natural as possible. What you see here is my final image, so let's jump to the originals and get started. Okay, so here we are with the two images. I'm going to take the sky layer and I want to drag it over into the foreground layer. So we're going to pull this out and then just drag this on over. And it's a little cramped in this workspace, so we're going to have to expand that. So go to Image and select Canvas Size and then enlarge it to whatever you need to create enough area to work in. Alright, I'm just going to scoot the sky up and I'm going to pull the foreground a little bit lower. Now we can see the silhouette of in the sky image and kind of use that to guide us and lower the opacity to kind of line it up with the foreground as best as possible. Since this is a panorama, it's probably not going to line up perfect, so what we're going to do is expand the sky a little bit larger and bring it below the horizon line of the foreground. This will make it easier when we go to blend everything together. Alright, once you're satisfied, just increase the opacity back up to 100%. And next, I think we're going to grab the warp tool, go to transform, and hit warp. And we're going to try and straighten out that hard kink that's in the Milky Way right here. So I'm just going to see what I can do. I'm not going to go crazy, but if I could fix it a little bit, we could, salvage some more of the sky. So I'll just drag this up and try and get it to be a little more on the straight side. I don't want to stretch the stars too much and make them look all wonky, so I'm not going to go too crazy with this warp tool, but if you want to try it on your end, definitely go for it. So I'm going to widen the sky a little bit just so I could capture more of the foreground as well. If I keep it too narrow, then I'm going to have to crop a lot of the foreground out. So I'm just going to make the sky overall a little bit bigger. Alright, that looks pretty good. I just wanted to use the warp tool on the foreground as well and just straighten this things out a little bit and kind of bring it in. Alright, I think that's good right there. Now we could crop out all this extra dead space and just get a general idea of what the final image is going to look like. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Now what we have to do is make a copy of our layers. Let me just drag this up so you can see what I'm doing. And we want to switch the foreground so that's on top and the sky is beneath it. And you see how we have all this white, so we're going to have to make a mask and try and get rid of all this white dead space. So use a hard brush and just go down as close as you can to the horizon line. I just want to erase away the whole portion of the sky that I'm not going to be using, just to be on the safe side. And then what we're going to do is right click on the layer mask and go to select and mask. Now we're going to go across the horizon line and then you're going to play around with the settings here. You can see what I'm using, but that's a good starting point. If you want to fine tune it and come up with a better setting, definitely try it out. play around for a little bit. Now I lost a little bit of detail in the foreground along the horizon, but we're going to paint that back in. Hit the slash button if you want to see what you're doing and see where you're painting exactly. So white will reveal and black will conceal. And right now I'm just revealing more of the foreground where it was removed when we did the masking. That looks pretty good. Alright, so there's a little bit of a white edge right on this left side of this image. So I'm going to zoom in there. Using a small diameter brush with a hard edge, I'm going to paint away that fine white line and just go right into the foreground a little bit more, and that way it looks a little bit more natural. Alright, so I'm just going to speed this up a little bit, but you get the gist of the idea. Just fine tune this a little bit better, and that's starting to look pretty good. But overall, our foreground looks a little too bright, especially towards the horizon. We need a natural light fall off. So to do that, we want to create a new layer, and we're going to do a gradient. We're going to use the gradient tool going from black to clear. So we're going to drag that down, and you see it's applied to the whole image. So what we got to do next is hold the Option key and grab the layer for the foreground and just drag it onto our new layer. Now it's just applied to the foreground only, and it doesn't touch the sky. So as we toggle on and off, you can see that the gradient tool has made the horizon a little bit darker. And let's just zoom in here and toggle it on and off, and you can see it makes it a little more natural. As things get farther away from you at nighttime, they should get darker, not brighter. So that's what we're doing here, and we could even darken it a little bit more by dragging another gradient on that same layer. If you're satisfied with that, what we're going to do next is just merge it down, and what you want to do is select preserve, and that way our mask is still intact. So now we still have the foreground layer separated from the sky, but we could do more stuff to this layer, like burning the horizon line. So that's what I'm going to do right here. And I'm just burning the shadows, a little bit of the midtones, and I'll probably do the highlights as well, just to kind of just make it blend a little bit better with the sky. Actually, I think I'm satisfied with that, and I just want to work in the sky a little bit. So what we're going to do is dodge the highlights and just pass over that a few times, and then we're going to burn the shadows. So I'm going to increase my brush and just hit the sky a couple times. You don't want to go too crazy here. Now I also want to burn some of the shadow areas in the foreground and dodge the highlights as well. This is just going to make those rock formations just pop out a little bit more, and there's a little bit of noise in the shadows, so that's why we want to burn those areas and kind of hide that noise. And then we can merge it down with our sky layer. Let's just flatten the whole thing. So I'm going to make another copy after I flatten it, and I want to address some of these magenta areas. This happens when you're using really high ISO, and there's a way to kind of fix that a little bit. What you do is make a copy, and you're going to go to select the color mode. Now in color mode, we're going to sample parts of the rock that look like a neutral gray or a neutral like warm tone color, and then we're going to paint the magenta areas and kind of turn them into like a gray or like a brownish color. If the color's too strong, lower the opacity and make it a little more subtle. So that's what we're doing right now. Just sample different areas and kind of tone down the magenta and the pink color that you might be getting in your foreground. Okay, that's starting to look a little more natural. There's quite a few spots on here, so I'm going to speed this process up, but it's just one extra step just to kind of increase the quality of your image. Alright, so that looks pretty good, and I'm going to flatten the image one more time. If there are any hot pixels, remove those now, and then save your final image. And we're going to bring it over into Lightroom. Now I could do a little more fine tuning with this image here. So I want to address that it looks a little tilted, and I'm not sure if this was just the naturally what it looked like in person because I didn't take these photos, but I'm just going to straighten the horizon line a little bit. Alright, that looks a little bit better. Now if you have Nik software, I'd suggest opening up Color Effects Pro and edit a copy with your Lightroom settings. I can use Pro Contrast, that's a pretty cool tool, but what I really like to use in here with my Milky Way shots is Glamour Glow. Now I'm going to increase the saturation a little bit. I'm not going to go too crazy with Glamour Glow. I like to keep it around 20%, and I just like the way it makes it a little more dreamy effect. Another tool I like to mess around with is Tonal Contrast, which you could play around with different settings. I'm going to use Fine for this one, and again, use it sparingly. Don't go too crazy with these tools because they could bring back noise into your image, or just make them look just destroy the picture overall. So that about wraps it up. Thanks for reaching out to me, Chelsea. I hope this helps you out in the future. For anybody else, if you ever are struggling and I have free time, feel free to message me. I try to get to everybody as quickly as I can, but yeah, if I'm available, I will definitely make a video for you guys with your images in the future. So that'd be really cool content, and just, you know, I like working on projects like these, and I like challenges. So thanks for letting me do this, and I will catch you guys in a week or so. Bye.